So the UK has unveiled what some are calling an aggressive plan to combat terrorism within their homeland. The proposal includes potentially seizing passports. It says that parents can pull the passports of children who are under 18. It also includes the possibility of shutting down some mosques if necessary. Critics say that this plan sounds like McCarthyism to them. Here's how Prime Minister David Cameron explained it to his people.
You don't suddenly decide to, become a terrorist. It goes through a process of radicalization, extremists, often online preachers and the rest of it. And a comprehensive strategy to defeat extremism starts at the beginning, rather than thinking just of the security interventions that you need to make.
Mike Baker is former CIA covert operations officer and president of Diligence LLC. Mike, welcome. Good to have you here today.
Thank you.
He also goes on to say that Islamic extremists don't just threaten our security. He says they jeopardize all that we have built together, our successful multiracial, multi-faith democracy. He says while Islamist extremists in no way represent the true spirit of Islam, we can't ignore the fact that they attempt to justify their views and actions through Islamic scripture and theology. That's a far cry from anything that we have heard from leadership here, Mike.
Well, it is. To be fair, I mean, Britain right now, they're trying to respond to a problem that's of their own making. It's a self-inflicted wound that's really been in the making for decades now. The British policy over the years has been to sort of celebrate your own background, multicultural diversity. And what I mean by that is as people moved to the UK, there wasn't this concerted effort to say, okay, now you're here, you're assuming our citizenship, so you're British first. And then fine, then celebrate your background, of course. As we do here in America, when you become an American citizen here, over the years, you're American first. But in England, in Britain, over the years, it's been just the opposite.
Yeah,
now this has come back and is biting them in the backside.
I understand what you're saying. I think that a lot of people listening might say that we have some of the same issues here. But let's put up some of these numbers. 250 plus Americans have traveled to Syria. 40 have returned to the U.S., and many of those have been arrested. It is a bigger problem, at least currently in the UK. 750 British citizens have traveled to Syria. 350 of them have returned. But the things that he's talking about doing, allowing people to pull passports,
right.
Potentially going into mosques and shutting them down. Now, we have certain mosques in this country that have been suspicious, that have been looked into. But, the pushback, obviously, and they're getting it in the UK as well, is that will make the problem worse, that it will incite more violence. What do you think? Where do you come down on that?
Yeah, it will. Look, they've created, again, because of, you have to, this 30,000-foot concept that I talked about, celebrating your own diversity. You have to understand that in order to understand what this is going to bring with it. They've created insular communities, in a sense. Those communities have, to some degree, brought Sharia law into those communities because that's what you would do if you're celebrating your background and you're asked to assimilate into the home culture. So the idea of shutting down mosques or going into those communities now and saying, no, you can't. Of course, you can't have Sharia law supersede, the host country law. That's just not. You can't do that. But they're on the back foot. So they're trying to do this after the fact, and it's going to be very difficult. In reality, the most effective way, what you're talking about here is the thing that we've been talking about in the U.S., which is how do you prevent this individual radicalization so that you don't have these individuals, oftentimes misguided or impressionable youth, traveling over to Syria or becoming radicalized. Yeah. Well, the front line of that, frankly, and if you talk to anybody involved in counterterrorism, I believe they'll agree here, is the family. The immediate family is where you get that first indication that you've got a problem. But imagine trying to convince a mother or a father or a brother or a sister.
We have seen some cases of that happen in this country where individuals have turned over a nephew and a son in one case as well who they thought was becoming radicalized.
But it's a very heavy lift.
What I'm seeing here is that everybody knows that something's going to happen. I mean, I hate to say it, but they also want to be prepared to say, look, we have this program in place. We're trying to, because when it does happen, if and when, God forbid, there's going to be so much finger pointing at why people weren't more aggressive at going after some of these individuals that people saw on social media, that they saw in their, place of religious faith, wherever it was.
Right. And frankly, here, at least in the U.S., I can't speak for other countries, I'm afraid we're going to have an incident like that in order to shift that pendulum. I mean, because, we've spent several years now deconstructing aspects of the counterterrorism effort because we're all just tired of the war on terror. And so at the point where we're facing more concerns, more imminent threats, more danger from this issue of Muslim extremism and radicalization and what ISIS is doing, we've actually, over the past few years, deconstructed our ability to fight that. And so I think I agree with you. I think we are going to be facing, and in counterterrorism, it's always when, not if, something happens. And that will push that pendulum back over and say we need to be more diligent.
It's good to let people know what David Cameron's doing. And we'll see if that kind of thinking and some of those activities spread. We will see. Mike, thank you very much. Good to see you.